Welcome to church on Sunday. Welcome to the first service. Yes, first service. This time is to introduce you all to the series episodes, which are, well, what we've done is we've taken our part episodes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so forth, and put them together so that our fine, distinguished gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, and the other ones in between, it would be lovely to have you cruise through sometime, or be refined to sit back and grab the cat and take a pat and watch our series long videos whenever you feel like taking a break and realizing, fuck, this fucking DC universe is out of it. Okay, right. Well, thank you for tuning up. It was love to see you. Hopefully you're all still half awake. And yes, well, God bless, and I'll see you at church next Sunday.
Do you know who hates cold case detectives? Like, who hates those guys? Yeah, apart from the obvious, apart from the bad guy that has gotten away with it. But do you know who else hates them just as much as that bad guy? Cops. Cops do. A certain kind of cop, and thank God it's not a lot of them. It's not even a small amount of them. It's a tiny amount of cops, because every other cop wants their case to be solved. They don't care. But just back in the day, there wasn't the advent of DNA like there is now. So lots and lots and lots of cops, pretty much all of them, apart from the other ones, want their cases to be solved. No. Just a certain type of cop. A cop which is either really, really lazy, really, really dumb, or really, really crooked. A hussy, some people may say. A hussy. A hussy. Yep, crooked cops would hate cold case detectives. And the thing is, cold case detectives and cold case units that look into old files, old cases that were never solved, I would have thought or expected that that would have happened from day one, but it hasn't. Like, it's only been brought in last century, and it was pretty much near the end of last century that they started doing cold cases. And the reason why they started that, cold case detectives, is because fighting crime at that time meant that they were actually winning somewhat, and that more money could be put into not fighting crime at the front line, but actually delving into cold cases that were never solved. So, there's a bit of trivia for you. Now, what that does is it leads me on to explaining how we at this channel, Dumb Criminal, how we look at cold cases, which is different than the way in which other channels look at cold cases. Yes, quite different. You see, what we do at this channel is we look at cold cases where we think, that looks a bit sus. That looks a bit funny. Yes, we look at those cases where we believe if the cops that were originally upon this cold case, if they heard that their case was being looked at, that they may not like it too much. That brings me on to this episode. Now, if you've been a sub-eye or indeed a subscriber of this channel for a period of time now, then you will know that we look at true crime kind of differently. Cold case detectives and how we look at those episodes and those cases is no different. You see, in this episode and in this series, you will undertake the role of specific people that were involved within this case, within this homicide. Now, for our sub-eye and our subscribers, you will already know what to do. But for the rest of you, the new ones, the best thing you can do is to sit back, belt up, and hold on. Now, within this episode, within this homicide, within this case, this thought experience starts now. Clear your mind. The date is 1986, and you are a rookie. You're the new guy in the force at this precinct. It's a homicide detective. Your partners with a senior homicide. There's two of you, obviously, because you're partners. And your role mainly, as the new guy, is basically to watch and learn and listen from the senior detective. Now, you and the senior cop, you guys get a call. It's late in the afternoon, and there's been a homicide happen at an apartment block, and the vic is a female. So you get in the old car and you hoon on down to this apartment block. Now we get down there and there's other cops and ambos and first aid boys walking around doing their thing. But now the big boys are here. Now you're here, the homicide boys. So as detectives, you start going into the house and you're looking at the scene. Now the first thing you look at is method of death. And what you can see is that young victim, 29 years old, named Sherri Rasmussen, has been shot 3 times, close range. Almost looks like contact burns. And she's been shot, and obviously she's been in a huge fight because she's got fighting and defensive wounds all over her. Now you look at the scene, and the whole scene is chaos. Like, there's stuff thrown around all over the place. But something else that you notice is that there's been electronic equipment and it's been stored at the base of the stairwells. Now, amongst the injuries upon the victim, you notice that there's a really big, deep bite mark, a full mouth bite mark upon the left arm of the victim. Now, what you also see on the Vic is how she's dressed. And she's dressed in a nightie or a negligee. So she's either just gotten out of bed or she was in bed sleeping at the time of when it all went down. What you also notice about the scene, you can't see any place of where there was forced entry into the apartment. So it was somehow, whoever it was that murdered her, somehow they got in. Now what you also notice is that upstairs there's a bullet hole and there's also blood smeared everywhere. So whatever happened, it must have started upstairs and then worked its way downstairs. You can tell from all the other signs that there was this huge fight that went on. Now the next thing in your investigation is that you notice 2 things. The first one is that it seems that the only thing that's missing is a marriage license, which is weird, but it's just not there. The second thing is the victim's car isn't there either. So the killer must have left in the victim's car, which was indeed found later about a mile away. Ditched, but no evidence came from it. Now with that information, we start learning about the victim. We find out that she's married to a guy called John. Now, just for the sake of speed, and what we do at this channel is to be able to say that they investigated this guy, and this guy John, his alibi was solid. He was away, he wasn't there, and he had nothing to do with his wife's death. So now we don't have to go into the whole investigation side of things. It's just what you have as a fact. In this case, the husband definitely did not do it. So, what else about the victim? Well, you find out that she's the head nurse at a hospital just down the road. 29 years old, and she's the head of the department. This victim was someone special, very special. So now, as this rookie in this thought experiment, you are given the assignment by the senior detective to go and speak to John Rutten, who was the grieving husband of the victim, and to speak to Sherri's whānau, to speak to the matua, her parents. Matua. It's a beautiful name from a really beautiful language called Te Reo, which is Māori, which is Kiwi. So at this channel, because I'm a Kiwi and I'm teaching you guys some Te Reo, especially our language, that's who I refer to when I use the words matua. And that is who your parents are called in my language, in language of the Kiwi. So, next time you see them, say, "Hello, my matua," and say it with love, because that's what it means when you say matua. Anyways, I digress. Back to it. So you go to speak to John Rutten. Now, us, as a rookie detective, well, for me, and I'm pretty sure for you guys, I think the main question that I would put to somebody, such as anybody, when talking about the victim, is this question, or at least this question would be very, very high on the list of questions of which I would ask. And that question is, does the victim have any enemies, or has anything happened that would make you suspect or believe that she was threatened by somebody, anybody, at any time? Now, what this guy John Rutten, the husband of the newly deceased victim, what he tells you is, well, there's only one person that she had somewhat of a problem with, and her name is Stephanie Lazarus. Now, what this guy John tells you is that he used to date this chick Stephanie as a girlfriend back in the day when he was at college, university. And while he was kind of seeing her, he kind of started seeing Sherri, the victim. And that he chose Sherri because she was just so much gooder, if there is such a word, but she was just such a lovely person that he knew he had struck gold. So he left Lazarus, carried on, and ultimately married Sherri. But he did keep in contact with Lazarus. And his ex, she would turn up every now and again at his place sometimes, and it really, really bugged the fuck out of Sherri. Sherri had definitely made it clear to Lazarus to stop coming round and stop stalking somewhat John. But Mr. Rutten doesn't think that Lazarus, his ex, that she wouldn't have done it. Because she's crazy, but he just didn't think, or wouldn't think, that she would actually do something so insane. And the second reason why he thinks that she wouldn't have done it is because she's actually a police officer. That she's a serving police officer that's active on the force, and she just happens to be a cop at the same goddamn precinct as what you and your senior detective are. And now, in our little perky rookie head, things just got interesting. Now that you've taken a statement of Mr. Rutten, you're now going to go pop over and see the parents of Sherri, parents of our victim, her matua. So you get over there and you meet this character, her father, her papa. In Māori it said papa, quite easy to remember. And lucky too, because her mama, yeah, it's pretty easy. So there's a whole language you've just learnt. Anyways, back to it. So you're there and you're talking to her father, and his name is Nels. Now, straight off the bat, Nels, old Sherri's father, he tells you straight away that he believes that it was this ex-girlfriend of John Rutten, this cop, because a bunch of things that Sherri, his daughter, had said to him over a period of time. And Nels tells you about times where she'd turn up to the apartment and so forth, and that Sherri had told her to go away and piss off. But a really, really big thing that happened was one day when Sherri, his daughter, was working as this head nurse at this hospital, that this crazy ex-girlfriend turns up and starts having a go at Sherri while she's at work, and that she, this crazy Lazarus chick, had actually threatened Sherri, but not directly, but somewhat indirectly and vague. She says that if I can't have him, referring to John, then no one's going to have him. Now, most people would think that would mean that she's probably going to kill John. So it's a veiled threat, but still very significant. Well, that's what you would find anyway. That's what we find, being this rookie and getting this information of Nels. So you thank Nels, you thank her matua or ma and papa, and then you say, right, I want to get back to the senior detective and let him know what I've found, because this chick, this ex-chick, this cop, seems to be the top suspect in this case so far. So now, you get back to the precinct, and now you catch up with your partner, the senior detective, and you sit down and you tell him exactly what they said, both John and Nels. And the senior cop listens to you, and then he tells you that not to worry about it, that he's actually solved the case. And you're like, what? You've solved it? Oh my God, it's amazing. Who did it? And your senior cop, your partner, he says, it's the Mexicans. The Mexicans did it. And we're like, what? How'd you get that? And he says to us, now sit down and I'll take you through. Now, first he tells us that this is a botched burglary, that there were two Mexicans and they had broken into the house. Well, they didn't actually break in because they don't know how they got access into it because there was no forced entry. So your partner says they were inside and they were burglaring all of the electronic gear. And he says because this is why there was electronic equipment stored at the base of the stairs. And you go, oh, okay. Then the senior cop says, now what happened is that the burglars made it upstairs and one of them had a gun. And this is where Sherri, obviously found them, and then they had this big fight. Sherri obviously wasn't going to go lightly because she was actually a very tall lady. She was a very tall 29-year-old. She was about 6 foot tall and really well built, shapely for sports. So she did put up a fight. Now, she fought these two Mexicans, and it started upstairs, and you can say that it started up there, you know that, because of the bullet hole and because of the scuffle marks and so forth on the walls. So then what happened was Sherri was fighting these two Mexicans, one with a gun, and they came downstairs, still fighting all the way and so forth, and somehow inside that fight, Sherri gets hold of the gun. But she doesn't use the gun. What happens is that the Mexicans, they attack her again and manage to get the gun back off her. And we go, how the hell do you know that? And the senior cop says, well, it's easy, because of the bite mark. What happened was Sherri had the gun in this hand, and the Mexican, one of them, bit down in her arm so hard that she released that gun, because that's the only reason why there would be a bite mark on that arm. So Sherri did get hold of the gun, but she just didn't use it. She just didn't use it. And that was to the advantage of the Mexicans, because they got the gun back off her. And then what happened was no one had the gun, and they were still fighting away. And then one of the Mexicans, they picked up this big ceramic pot thing and smashed it over Sherri's head. And that stunned her, put her out, knocked her out and put her on the floor. And then what this dirty low-down Mexican did was he picked up a cushion and then went over to Sherri while she was unconscious and then used it to muffle the sound of the 3 gunshots of which he shot into Sherri and ultimately took her life. So, of course, we're sitting there as this rookie detective looking at our boss going, well, that all sounds kind of theoretically crazy. But, well, I suppose if that's what you say, but how the hell do you know it's 2 Mexicans? And your partner says, well, this is how. You see, when you're away interviewing John and Sherri's parents, we got back that recently there had been a spate of burglaries around this area, and that at one time, just a couple of weeks back, in a place not too far from where this apartment is that these 2 Mexicans were witnessed burglaring an apartment, and that the witness says that they believe that one of these Mexicans had a gun. So that's who did it. And we say, really? That's who did it? So we have them in custody, and that they confessed to it? And your senior cop goes, no, we haven't caught them yet, but we will. But it's definitely them that did it, and that the evidence is clear. So as a rookie, I'm like, okay, well, look, that's a theory, and it does sound sort of plausible, especially with the bite mark. But then again, it is just a theory, boss. We should probably take a look at this Lazarus chick and see if there's any angle there, just so we can cross off the list. And your senior goes, you're not to mention it again. It wasn't this female cop, it was these Mexicans. That's how we write it up. And we're like, okay, you're the boss. So now what work is there to do on this investigation? And the senior cop goes, well, that's pretty much it, really. What we'll do is we have the CSI boys. I'll take swabs of everything, because apparently in the future, because DNA wasn't even a word back then, but sometime in the future they say that science, they'll be able to tell who did it just from something like some bodily fluid, like semen or saliva or sweat or whatever it may be. Your senior detective goes, it's all a load of bullshit, hogwash. It'll never amount to anything, but we have to do it because it's regulations anyway. Now, in cases, I'm not sure if it's the same now, but it was back then. If you had a homicide case and you hadn't solved it in 60 days, what they did was they'd write up a big report about everything that happened within the investigation, and then any theories and so forth, like this one, and then they would submit it. They'd submit it to the oversight people of these cases. So these are obviously very senior detectives that know their shit. And what they're doing is seeing whether or not you could have done anything more, chased down every lead that could possibly have been done. And what this does is this leads us on to the second role that you and this thought experience must undertake. You are the senior detective oversight division that signs off on cases and places them from active cases into cold cases. You are that guy, and you receive this case, and you have to decide on whether or not you're going to sign off on it, whether or not anything else could be done. So we're looking at this case that this senior cop has now just given us. So what we are looking at is, has the detectives on this case, have they done everything that they possibly could? Have they chased down every single lead which will allow me to sign off on this case? So what we do is we look at what witnesses were interviewed and what they said when in regards to that one important question. And what important question would that be? Well, that would be the question that would be expected by us as the community, that all homicide detectives would ask all people that were associated to the victim. And that question would be, does Sherri, does the Vic, have any person that has made threats against her or any enemies of which had ever made her feel threatened at any time? And when we look at this case and what the senior detective has submitted, we read that everyone that had been interviewed had informed us no. No one had ever said anything like that about Sherri. So now, since there was absolutely no other leads that could have been tracked down, we have to flip back to the original theory of the senior detective, that it was these two Mexicans and one of them had a gun, that this is the most favoured lead that there is, and it was unfortunate that these two Mexicans haven't been caught yet. So us, as the senior oversight detective within the precinct, we check that box and place this active case into a cold case. And that is exactly what happened in this case. And back then, that senior cop would have thought, case is closed. So now what happens to the case, this cold case, is time. So what we're going to do is we're going to rip forward in time. So we start here and start moving towards the present day. Now, as we're moving forward to the present day, the next big thing that happens to the toolbox or the arsenal against crime fighting is our beloved DNA. Now, back in the early 90s, DNA waved its hand, and it was in its infancy way back then. What they could do is the basics. One of those basics is either figuring out whether it was a male, an XY, or a female, an XX, chromosomes that were left behind in the swabs or the hair samples or whatever it may be. So what happened then was Nels, Sherri's father, he immediately contacted the police, the detectives, the homicide, the guys that were in charge of this case, and said, please, can you do this DNA stuff and check what evidence you guys collected at the scene to see if it's a female, to see if it's an XX chromosome. And the cops, what they said to Nels was, stop watching TV detective shows. Stop doing that. You're thinking stupid. Secondly, the department doesn't have any money to do such things. It's bullshit. So what Nels then said was that he would pay for the DNA to be tested. Right? So that makes it like, sweet. Yeah, let's get that tested. But then the cops come back to Nels and tell Nels, no, we're not going to do that because we don't have anyone that we can test it against. And Nels says, well, that's bullshit, because this crime was done by this crazy-ass Lazarus. And the cops, well, they basically said, just piss off, Nels, you're an idiot. Now, just as a coincidence, what also happened back in 1993 in this case is that a detective named Morritt, Detective Phil Morritt, he checked out all of the samples of DNA that were taken at the case, and for some unknown reason didn't check them back in again. So all of the swabs, all the DNA that they had for testing in the future, for that DNA testing, all the ones that were in that big box that were written with that cold case file were now gone. And Nels didn't know that. Nobody knew that. Otherwise, they'd be straight on to this guy Morit saying, where the hell are they? Put them back. But since nobody knew Morit had taken them out, not even Morit apparently, then nobody knew that had been done. And they had lost any chance of finding out who it was. But you see, with the grace of God, and obviously someone who's a good guy, not all of the DNA swabs were placed inside that box. You see, one of them, the bite mark DNA, that bite mark DNA, that wasn't in the box, that was in an envelope which was beside the box but not in it. So when old Morit came along and unfortunately took out all the samples and somehow lost them all, he didn't actually get that envelope, didn't see it, didn't know it was there. So that envelope sat there for years and years, right up until this time. And now the date is 2004. And now what happens with this cold case is that cold case units have now been set up because there has been a decrease in the amount of crime at present. There's been more funding to be able to be placed into creating these new units called cold case units. And what these guys do is look back at these cold cases to see if anything can be done. And what happens is there's this science chick, this DNA science chick that works at the department. Her name is, and what happens is this science chick, this DNA science chick, Jennifer, she gets assigned the cold case, our cold case. So she gets the swab from the bite marks and she runs it through the big DNA machine, and it pops up that there is no match to anyone that they have. But what it does show is that it was a female. Female DNA was in the bite mark. So what Jennifer did was to do a bit of snooping, and she found out that there was some chick back then who had made some remarks or got into a bit of a fisticuff at this work of the victim's work back in the day. So she hits up the cops, or her boss, and the other cops of the homicide and say, hey, did you check out this chick? She might be the person that killed Sherri. And the cops told her, nah, she's still a burglar, killed her. It was just some chick that was hanging out with the Mexicans. So nothing came of it. So the case went back to getting colder. Now the year is 2009, and now in the department, they've set up cold case units, cold case teams to actually look back at the old cold cases, not just the DNA stuff, but to look back and see whether or not a set of fresh eyes will be able to solve it. So now the cold case team, it picks up the cold case and they start looking into it. And now we're going to get back into a thought experience. Now your third role is that you are a rookie again. Yep, that's right, we're a rookie again. In fact, we're a rookie detective in a homicide. Oh, God, forget it. But look, it's deja vu. Just think about it as deja vu. You're the same cop in the same precinct on the same agency, homicide. You're the new guy and your senior partner is the man. And you as this rookie in this partnership, in this agency, have just been allocated the Sherri Rasmussen file, the cold case of Sherri Rasmussen. And you will undertake that role in the next episode. Kia ora to the DC universe. Kia ora sabai, and kia ora subscribers, and to the new guys. Just a word to the new guys. Best to sit back, belt up, hold on. Let's get into episode 2. The cold case of Sherri Rasmussen. The case that to this channel looks kind of funny. In this episode, you are going to take the role of 3 people within this cold case investigation. And not only will you have to undertake those roles, you'll have to think about the thoughts and the pressures and the hard decisions of each one of those roles undertakes. And what do I mean by that? Well, we'll let your first role, the role of the rookie, explain all that. Clear your minds. You are now a rookie in the cold case team, this cold case team. Now, I'll bring you up to speed in the role of who you are inside this thought experiment by simply saying deja vu. Everything is basically the same. You're a rookie, you're a homicide detective, you're in the same precinct, in the same city. It's just that the time periods are different, and this is called a cold case. Now, you've just been assigned this case, and you know nothing about it. Not a thing. And you don't even know that the bite mark has female DNA in it. In fact, the box that you have just been given with the case file in it has nothing about the DNA in it at all. Your senior partner arrives in the briefing room. And your partner, well, he's the man. He's the man. So you and your senior partner start going through this box. And the box contains photos and job sheets and a report that had been submitted by the senior detective of the Rasmussen case back in 1986. And you see that 60 days later, it was checked off by an inspector and placed into the cold case bin. And now it is yours. Those are the parameters of this thought experiment, and that thought experiment, your role, starts now. Now, your senior, your boss, after going through the box, starts assigning you the basics. He tells you to go check out the boyfriend, this guy John, and to go check out next of kin and see what they've got to say. So away we go. First off, we check out Rutten. Now, for the sake of how we do things sometimes, instead of having to go through the whole of that conversation with Jay Rutten, then what we are going to do is just say deja vu. Everything he says in episode 1 is the same. Deja vu. So after speaking to Rutten, we get in the old car and we shoot off and go see Sherri's Matua. And if you'd watched episode 1, genius, you'd know what that word meant. So you arrive at the house, and the next thing you see this old guy walking out, and you're thinking, oh, that must be this guy Nels that's in this report here. You walk up to this guy Nels and shake the man's hand. Deja vu. Bro, think about that, eh? Like Nels would have been spewing by this time, man. And it wouldn't have sounded probably like that. It'd probably sound like how Nels would say it, which would be deja vu, motherfucker. I knew that pig was crooked. I knew that fucking pig was crooked. That bitch took my daughter, and those pricks covered it up. Yeah, I reckon Nels would have sounded something like that when he spoke to us as the rookie, because expectancies, I would expect that, because man, who wouldn't be pissed the fuck off by now, bro? Fuck. Oh, man. I'm amazed that Nels held it together, man. Much respect, bro. Much respect. Now, Sherri's Matua, this guy Nels starts telling you about the bite mark and the DNA. And we're like, oh, really? There's DNA? I didn't see any in the box. And Nels tell you, no, it's there. It was there. Like, they haven't said it's gone missing or anything. So it's still there. And I'll even pay now if you do it. And where's the rookie say, no, there's no need to do that, man, because if there's DNA anywhere, and I don't think there is because the box was empty, but I'll check when I get back. So Nels tells you all about the bite mark and the DNA. He even tells you that he tried to pay for it, but they said back then, stop watching TV, old man. Stop watching TV, and that they don't have any suspects. Like, I told them all of this. It must be in the file. And you're like, not a word, Nels. Not a word, mate. Now, can you imagine, after hearing from us, the rookie, that there isn't even a mention of this chick being any type of threat, or even knowing Sherri, or even meeting her, or anything? There's nothing in the file that would indicate anything to do with her ever being thought as a suspect. And there's nothing in there of anything that Rutten, or Nels, or Mum, or the nurses at the hospital, and doctors, and probably general staff and patients and whoever. There's not a fucking word. Can you imagine how pissed Nels would be right now? And us as a rookie, our role is to envision how pissed off Nels would be, bro, because I'm sure by now he would have been spewing. Fuck, especially right after being told that. Then he's got to think, well, I told those pricks all about her, and that prick told me that they had investigated this ex-girlfriend of John's, and her alibi was solid, so it definitely wasn't her. That is what they told me. Can you imagine how pissed you would be if we were in the role of Nels? Lucky we're not. We're the rookie. That's lucky, man. That's lucky. Because how pissed would Nels be? And the crazy thing is that Nels is completely justified in having those thoughts and feelings. Like, completely. Oh, man, how would you feel? Yeah, old Nels wouldn't be thinking that the police are at the top of his list for Christmas or anything. Not at all. Not at all. Anyways, I digress. I wander. I digress. Let's get back to it. Anyways, so what do we do now? We're the rookie. We just hear that. Oh, man, that sucks. And you're the cop. You're the detective on the homicide squad. Same precinct, same division, same city, same witness. Oh, my God, her matua. And this is what they done to him and her family for final justice? Holy shit. Expectancies. Now, us, as a rookie, we're looking straight at Nels, and we say, Mr. Rasmussen, I can't speak for the men back then. I can't speak to say, I'm sorry for what happened, because I'm a cop, I'm a detective, and I'm a good one. And we say, Nels, you have every right not to trust the police, mate. After this, I can completely understand. That's why I can completely understand if you say no. You will also think the cheek of it, but I need to ask you, Nels, to trust me, to trust my word, both as a man and as a detective in the Los Angeles Police Department. I need you to trust the police, and if not the police, trust me. I give you my word, Nels, that if you don't say a thing to anyone at all, apart from her mum, not to the papers, not to the journos, not to the news, not to your neighbour, not even to your pets, Nels, I need you to not say a word that we're investigating her as that chick. If she's the murderer, if we find out that the evidence is that it's hers, Nels, she might just bolt. If she hears anything, she's in the wind, Nels. I need you to give me your word you won't say anything. And if you do that for me, Nels, if you take that leap of faith, I promise you, what I'll do, mate, is I'll put a microphone, I will put a hidden video camera in the interview room when I go get her, Nels, and bring her in for some questioning. Those questions that should have been asked way back then, Nels, I give you my word, mate, I will put those questions to her. I will put those questions to her like they should have done, Nels, and I will show you what she says. But best of all, Nels, what I'll do, mate, is I will show you her life force leave her body, Nels, as doom sets in. when I hit that bitch up that we have DNA from the scene, Nels. When we have DNA. Oh, I swear to you, Nels, if you keep quiet, mate, I swear from the old gods and the new, from all that living and all that's gone, Nels, I will do that, Nels. I will do that, bro. And then I will bring that tape and I will come here personally, Nels, and we can watch it together. And Nels looks at us, and then Nels says, just go do your job, rookie. Just go do your bloody job. Expectancies. So you say ka kite, and away you go. Us, as the rookie, we leave and we head back to the office to catch up with the boss and let him know everything that you have found. So we get back and you see the boss having a chat with someone in the room. So you go in and sit down and your boss turns to you and says, before you say a thing, rookie, I've gone through the box and this ain't no burglary by some Mexicans. It's made to look like one, but it ain't. It's like some old way of teaching someone what to look like for burglaries, like some out of some old teaching manual, but this definitely ain't a burglary. This is my theory, rookie, about what actually happened. And your boss, the senior cop, he picks up the box, puts it on the desk and goes, here, rookie, look at this. The stereo equipment, rookie, where it's stacked. You see, you wouldn't stack anything where it's stacked, especially if you're doing a burg. It doesn't even make sense to a normal person, let alone if you're a burglar. You see, rookie, it's all about time. One of those times is how long you are inside the residence, in and out. So if you were to transport stuff from inside and get it away in a takeaway vehicle, if you did have too much stuff to take when you were doing a burglary, and if you did stack it, you'd stack it at the entry point, as the entry point is your exit point, because if nobody saw you come in, then the plan is to have no one see you when you leave or when you vacate. So you wouldn't stack anything anywhere but the entry point. I would think if they got in without forced entry, then they came through the front door. And if they came through the front door, then I would expect anything that was to be stacked to be moved into a car or off-site, that the burglars would stack it next to the door, the front door. Now, it doesn't take a burglar to figure that out. A normal person would have thought that out, especially anyone that's ever helped move a house or an apartment for someone. You stack your stuff nearest the entry point. So, that senior cop back then, rookie, his theory about those Mexican burglars, I have no idea about how that senior back there never picked that up. Now, the next thing is that I believe the senior cop back then, in his theory, that he got it right. He got it right by saying that the fight did start upstairs. So, we know that it was upstairs, most likely the first time that Sherri and the murderer came into contact with each other, because that's where the fight started. And the fight, it went from upstairs to downstairs. And there is only one set of stairs. And it is a remarkable feat that fight, as bad at what it was, and you can see the scuff marks and the blood everywhere, as bad at what it was, somehow, unbelievably, when that fight came downstairs, none of anything in those stacks is knocked over. Remarkable. And that would give me rise to say that some would say that maybe they stacked the equipment after they murdered Sherri. But then we remember reality, because what would a burglar do, rookie? They wouldn't take their time to stack stuff. They wouldn't have hung around and stacked stuff, especially if in the end they thought, I'm going to take it with me anyway. No one would do that, rookie, especially not a bunch of seasoned burglar Mexicans. Those Mexicans always getting the blame. Poor Mexicans. Anyway, rookie, it just doesn't make sense. No one would. But yet, that cop back then, that senior detective, didn't pick that up, didn't use that same sense that, it'd be expected that you would use. And what sense is that? Well, rookie, that would just be common sense, the one that we all have, or one that we're meant to. If not just as a decent person, but look, as a detective,
It's expected that you would use common sense. It is bizarre how those cops back then didn't use it. Now, the third thing, Rookie, the third major reason of why I say it wasn't those Mexicans, and that this isn't a botched burglary, but one that's meant to look like one, is that anyone at all, if you had to burgle a place and you had taken the time to stack equipment, then you definitely would have had time to fill your pockets. And in these pictures and at the residence, there was money and expensive jewelry and watches sitting on benches. So you definitely, as a burglar, would have first filled your pockets before you realize you're going to have to come back again. Fill your pockets with the expensive small stuff. And that never happened. It would be the first thing you'd take. And that's using that sense again. You know, the common one. And your boss goes to you, you know, Rookie, none of this makes sense. None of it makes common sense. And then your boss tells you, Rookie, and that ain't all. And then he turns around and he goes, Rookie, I'd like to introduce you to the scientist. Her name is Jennifer Francis. She got assigned the case back in 2000, and she's just told me that there was DNA. There was actually DNA taken from the bite mark, and that back then, when she tested it, it came up as a female bite mark. So it definitely ain't the Mexicans. This definitely wasn't a burg. And Jennifer here says that she actually took that information, that it was a female, that this most likely wasn't a burglary, and that she went to her bosses, went to the detectives and told them, hey, look at this, it's a female. And the detectives back then, they just brushed it off. And then she told us that she did a little digging around, and she came up with a line in a report that was filed and stamped off by some inspector that Rutten used to have an ex-girlfriend. And Jennifer says that back then, when she raised it and she talked about, was there anyone in the case file, is there a female? And the detectives, bosses back then says, oh, you mean the cop? Yeah, she was checked out, but she was cleared. It was the Mexicans, goddammit. They told her it was the Mexicans. It was just that it was a female Mexican burglar. And then she says that it was then shut down. No more investigating, no more nothing. And now we've got it. And then the boss turns to us and says, hey, Rookie, what did you get from Rutten and interviewing her mature? And we turn to our boss and we say to our boss, Deja vu. Deja vu. You say the same stuff that was said back then to the detective after the Rookie back then spoke to Rutten and spoke to Amatua. You say the same stuff, but then you add on all the other stuff that Nels was saying. And now our boss looks at us and our boss goes, Rookie, this isn't good, bro. This isn't good at all. And now it's time for your fourth role here. Your fourth role inside this thought experience. Clear your mind. You are now the senior cop on this team. You are the boss of the Rookie. You're the head of the cold case unit. And here, now, where you are inside this role as the senior cop, in this predicament, you now have to make the decisions. The hard decisions. Now let's compare it, eh? Let's compare that kind of decision. The hard decision. One that, well, hopefully most people will never have to make. Will never have to make in a lifetime. But that decision, that hard decision, that's here and that is now. And it's one of those decisions where it's just a either simple yes or no. Simply simple. Simply simple. It's either yes or no. The hardest of decisions, when it all comes down to it, is just either yes or no. Yes or no. Do we go forward with this case? Because though it is expected of us by the community as police officers, it's an expectancy that they would say, well, of course they would go and investigate. Of course we would investigate this crime. and do whatever it is to bring it to its resolution, to bring this to righteousness, to use the law and our powers of police just as the community expects us to use it. It's an expectancy from the community, and it's not just an expectancy from the American community, the American people's community. It's an expectancy of my community, of my people as well here in Aotearoa. It's an expectancy of every single one of you that is watching this episode now, the global community. It is our expectancy of what detectives and police officers are meant to be like and what they are meant to do. And you don't have to be an expert in police matters or in investigations or CSI or whatever. You don't have to be a genius in that area with a G at all. What we do is that we have the expectancy that they know what they're meant to be doing, and that our expectancy is met by what they do, not what they say, but in the acts and behavior of which they do. Expectancy. So our expectancy is, of course, they would investigate. Of course they would, because if they didn't meet that expectation of us, the global community, your community, then they are definitely not the people that you want in that role at all. But now that role isn't theirs. That role is ours, is your role. You are the senior cop inside this division. So now, within this role, those are those hard decisions. That hard decision is here and now. And our decision, that decision. Now let's look at how hard that decision is for us in our role, because we have to contemplate what it means when we say yes. Because let's compare it, Let's compare the decision, the hard decision that we have to make right now as the boss of this cold case team and going forward with this investigation, and the decision that they had to make back then in 86, that senior cop back then with that other rookie back then in 86. How full on this decision is. Because you see, it's not just about taking out some crazy bitch who's been posing as a cop for fucking years. No, like even back then, she was a rookie when she came into the police force. So it's not that you're going to be busting a rookie again. It is that you are going to be busting a detective, because that's what level she's at now. And I would say that would be heaps worse than having to arrest a rookie. You will definitely put in the spotlight the two detectives or anyone involved in the case back in 82. That detective, that senior, and that rookie, they're fucked. The senior, definitely more so, as he's the one running the show, and if you remember, he's the one that made that report, that extensive report, and then submitted it to the inspector. Be a cold case. And the thing is, back then, when you were in the role of the rookie, back then, it would have been done right. If they would have went forward, then only one cop, one junior cop would be going down. And that really is the stark difference between the two when we compare them for difficulty of making the hard decisions, of simpleness, the yes or the no. The yes or the no. You see, that senior detective back then, his decision was to let a rookie off a murder, from what it looks like, in my opinion. From what it looks like, baby. A rookie. That's what Lazarus was. And, you know, in a way, not in a good way, but in a way, I could sort of understand if it was, say, another detective in a homicide division, or maybe a senior sergeant or a lieutenant, or even a sheriff. But a rookie, to cover it up, to take the chance of all of this coming down around you and all of these people in the future perhaps going down, and at the least being found out and being mentioned, and somehow people finding out all about the case, all about the names and the people involved, and the whole fucking thing burning down around you. And all of it for a rookie? Like, Oh man, that's dumb, baby. That's dumb. Anyways, back to being in our role right now to make the hard decision. Thing is, we go forward, none of these clowns are rookies anymore. All of them, they're still here. All of them are senior police officers or senior detectives or possibly even more up that ladder. If it is as bad as what it looks, it's all of these people will be burnt because of this rookie. And the decisions made in that case back in 1986, because even if they're retired, like, man, like all of the good stuff, all of the really good guy shit that they would have done in their passages being a cop or a detective or whatever, all of it undone and all of it gone. And the only thing you'll be remembered for is this cover-up for a rookie? Like, fuck, that's dumb, man. God, that's dumb. Then again, it is just my opinion. So that's the decision. That's our decision. And you know what? You know what we do? You know what these cops did? This senior detective did? You know what they said to his rookie? Fuck it. Let's go. Fuck it. Let's go, baby. And now within this thought experience, we're going to transfer. We're going back to being the rookie in this case. The rookie in the cold case team. Clear your mind. Now we're back to being the rookie. And the boss, our senior detective, turns to us and says, "Hey, rookie, let's go do what should have been done back then. Let's go do what should be done always. Let's go investigate." And your senior tells you, "Right, I want you to go after her story. I want you to find out everything about her story," which in this universe is spelt this way. Instead of his story, it's her story. So we're charged to go find out about her story. And we say, "Right, boss, we're onto it." And now it's a lot easier. That was easy back then. It's pretty easy now because all we do is sit in front of an internet. We plop down in front of a police computer and then pull up everything on this chick within the her story of the police department of the Lazarus file. And up on our screen pops that, well, she's now not just a police officer anymore, that she's a detective. She's been in it from way back then, so about 20 years. And you see that she's a detective and she specializes in art theft, which is quite interesting. You see that she's written a couple of books and she's a tutor in the police for certain things, and she's really well respected and she hasn't got any blemishes against her name, and that she's sitting sweet for her pension. Yep, she seems to be at the top of her game. So now we're going to check out Lazarus' work history with the cops way back then. It takes about 10 seconds to investigate it on this PC, and after 10 seconds of investigation, what we find is that back then in 1986, on the day in question, the day before, and I believe the day after, Lazarus wasn't at work. She had the days off. I heard one time a detective say, I believe it was on television, that in crime, there are no coincidences, son. There are no coincidences in crime. So her working on the day that Sherri was murdered, her working cannot be her alibi. So the time frame from the murder, yeah, Lazarus could have definitely done it. That doesn't make her guilty of it just because she had that time off and because she had motive. That's not enough at all. So what we do as a rookie, we type in a few more words because what we're thinking is that Sherri was shot 3 times if we remember correctly. And what we're thinking is maybe she would have been dumb enough to use her own gun. Maybe she would have been dumb enough. Because you see, if she did use her own gun, if she was that stupid, then she would have definitely ditched it. Absolutely, definitely ditched that gun. Because other than the DNA, that would have definitely been a key to linking her to the murder. So what we're thinking is that if she used her own gun, then she would have had to ditch it, which means that she would have filled out a report to say that she had lost it or it had been stolen. That's our mindset on looking at whether or not she's made or filed that report. And what do you know? Genius here reported that her revolver, her secondary backup, her backup gun was stolen. And now we plug in just a couple of letters more and we find out when she filed that report and what it says. And lo and behold, there it is. And she says that one day she got her service revolver nicked from her bag while she was at the gym. Bingo! And now we look at that date and oh my God, what a crazy coincidence. She just happened to have that gun stolen from that gym bag in her car and then reported it 1 month after the murder. Pure gold. Coincidences. But then again, it might have been stolen out of her bag from her car while she's at the gym by a dirty female Mexican burglar. Or she used the gun to murder Sherri. You see, it wasn't her primary weapon. It wasn't Lazarus's primary weapon because Lazarus knew that if she was to lose that weapon, then she could get in really big shit. That gun would have been issued to her as a police officer. So she had to use her secondary weapon, her backup. And the thing is, she had to report it stolen because she would have registered that weapon as her secondary weapon. So if at all at any time she had to use that secondary weapon and it was found that the ballistics don't match from that original secondary weapon, then any court case that she's ever been in regards to the use of that weapon or really anything else would weaken any case that she was involved in. So that's the reason why she had to report it stolen. So now in our role as this rookie in the homicide team in this cold case, we now think of this, that the senior detective back then in police protocol, that it was 60 days roughly after catching a case. If you hadn't solved it, it took roughly 2 months and then the inspector would sign off on it. Remember that from episode 1? So now what we have a digital trail that on this date that her weapon was issued as being stolen was within the 60 days. Within those 60 days, Lazarus reported her secondary firearm had been stolen from her bag. And we, as a rookie, we would be thinking, well, that detective back then, that senior detective, he would have most likely definitely knew that she had lost a firearm. Because even if that senior detective thought, no, I'm not going to investigate Lazarus, she's a cop, she wouldn't have done it. Even if he thought that, he would have definitely searched her name over those 60 days, and he definitely would have seen the same report that we're looking at right now. That is, in my opinion. And that is just my opinion. And that opinion, I just said, I believe would just be common sense. And even if they were to say that there wasn't any computers back then, I would think that losing a fucking firearm, any firearm at all when you're a police officer, a serving active police officer, that if not all cops in that precinct, but definitely the boss would definitely know either through formal channels or just the grapevine that this cop, this rookie, lost her gun. Yeah, I would expect that most cops in that precinct, but most definitely the homicide detectives would know, would definitely hear whether or not some police officer had their gun either stolen, taken, or lost, especially if you're homicide, because they'd be keeping a lookout for it, obviously, to see if it's not used in one of their crimes, because that would be bad. Yes, it's very difficult for me to believe that wouldn't have happened. And how would I know this? Well, it's because I grew up on Hill Street Blues, baby, and they taught me everything to do with cops and detectives and crime in America. As a kid when I was growing up, Hill Street Blues, the good guys. And from watching that, you realize there ain't no secrets in a police department. There ain't no, everyone would know. Anyway, it's just an opinion. So now, as the rookie, In this investigation, we head back to see the boss and tell him what we found all about the gun and Lazarus's time off. So us as a rookie, we head back to tell the boss. So we get into that room and we start telling the boss about the days off and about the gun and the theory that you have in regards to it being lost. And your boss finishes that thought for you that you had in regards to the gun and the grapevine. And our senior goes, bingo. Then the boss tells us that he took the information that we got from our tour and went down and checked out the hospital. And we as a rookie ask him, so, boss, what did they say? And the boss looks back at us and just says, it's her. It's definitely her. Her old man was right. Jesus, I'd be pissed if I was that guy. So we say to the boss, what's next, boss? And the boss says back to us, well, we got to get her DNA. But that ain't going to be easy because we can't just get a warrant because that grapevine that was there back then, that's still here now. So we can't let her know unless it spooks her. And then the next thing, Jennifer walks into the office and says, hey, I got this. The scabs picked it up. Who's the scabs? Well, scabs in our DC universe are those people that go follow around a subject waiting for them to discard something so they can pick it up and then use it to test for their DNA. We call them, in our universe, the scabs. And Jennifer tells us, hey, I've got her DNA. We've tested it and it's her. And we're like, God, that was quick, Jennifer. And Jennifer turns back to us and says, that bitch is a bitch of Eastwick. Just put a plug in there. So we turn to our boss and say, so what's next, boss? What do we do? And the boss goes, well, go get her, boy. Go get her. So you start to leave the office and all of a sudden you stop. And then you think, that's right, Nels. And then you turn around and you go and you pick up a hidden camera from one of your police drawers or something, and you go into this room, you set it up, and you're adjusting it, trying to get the chair, and you get it so, yep, that's about right, and we test it, okay, yep, looks good to me. And now, us, as this rookie, we go get Lazarus. We go get Lazarus and bring her in. We tell her that there's some art thief going on and she's got to come into the office. And our office just happens to be in the jail. And the big boss says that he wanted us to do that because that'll mean that she'll have to take off her weapon before she comes on in, just in case this psycho bitch nuts up. So the next thing is we bring old Lazarus in and she takes a seat. So we sit down next to our boss. And our boss pulls out a piece of paper and writes something on it. And he puts it down on the table in front of us. And we look down on it and it says,
this is a warning, as YouTube requests, and indeed it is true. What I'll do is I'll make this warning so as to be for the new guy watching, because everyone else will know what we do. And if you don't know what we do with our viewers and these episodes on this channel, some of them, well, first we look at bad stuff. And by bad stuff, I mean bad people committing bad crimes against good people. That's the first thing we do, we cover in our episodes. And the second thing we do is we undertake thought experiences, not a thought experiment, because that's something else completely different. This is a thought experience, like a mind experience where we undertake the role of someone within the crime story in the episode. That role has us be in that moment, whatever it may be within that crime, and we think the thoughts of that person that is within that role at that time within this crime. And when doing that, we also feel the feelings of which that person, who is usually just like us, has our thoughts and our mind experiences, can induce feelings of crippling, drastic, and forever loss or rage, unbridled fury or rage. So there's your warning. For the rest of you, my guys, my subscribers, and most importantly, my members, I'd like to say to you all, hi-ho, hi-ho, let's get on with this show. Clear your mind. Let's rewind time a little. Let's get back to the boardroom. Let's go back to before we put the camera in the room, before we even told the boss about Nels, right? Let's get back to the boardroom inside this crime. And it's us as the rookie, and our senior detective, our partner, goes to us. This interview has to go off without a hitch, rookie. And your senior goes, what we do is to audio tape her, but just the audio. And we go, what? What do you mean just audio? Why? Why just the audio? Listen, rookie, and pay attention. This is the biggest case to hit the department in a decade. In decades. She's probably the only female detective in the world that has been done for a murder that she committed when she was occupied as a cop at the LAP fucking D, rookie. Everyone is going to be hooked on this case, and we go, yeah, so what? And then the boss goes, everyone, rookie. And in that everyone, there's going to be lawyers, really bloody good ones. And the first thing that they're going to do is appeal the shit out of the interrogation, this interrogation that we're going to try and pull off to have the audio thrown out. Obviously, we say. And us as the rookie go, yeah, that's obvious, boss. And those lawyers have a good chance at having that audio removed. If it was audio and video, then they have twice as much chance of getting the appeal right. And the interrogation is FUBAR. Gone, rookie. And then we remember the old gods and the new. We remember the word we have to nows. And you cemented those words into the universe. Mana is everything. We then say to our senior what we did, what we said to nows, what we promised him. And our senior goes, well, as long as you just didn't swear it under the old gods and the new. Then our boss looks at us and says, you did, didn't you? Then our boss, the senior, says, wait here, rookie. And then he leaves the room and he comes back about 10 minutes later and says to us, here it is. The chief prosecutor says that the best chance of having any shot of keeping both the audio and the video in is if certain lawful parameters are met. Then he says, and these are the parameters. The first is that as soon as she asks for a lawyer or says that she wants one now or asks us to provide her one, the whole thing stops. Next, you have to keep her talking for longer than 60 minutes. You have to breach the 60-minute mark. It has to be this long, rookie, as it falls outside what we call the lawyer's magic number. So it must be more than an hour. But remember, if she mentions she wants one and asks for a lawyer, it's over. And the last parameter is that the video needs to accompany the audio as the subject's facial and body language to a reasonable person that was watching the subject inside the interview without sound would think that the subject was misleading or lying. These three are the parameters under the law, lawful and reasonable. We need to keep both as submissible evidence in the case. And we go, shit. And our senior goes, you know, rookie, I'm glad that you said that because you'll be leading the questioning. And we say, oh, sweet as. Now, to get her into the office for this interview, rookie, well, what we're going to say is that we need a hand. It's about a burglary that went wrong and some art was stolen and the victim was shot at the scene. And we say, good idea, boss. Then we say to our senior, well, I'll go get her. And the senior goes, well, not so fast, rookie. Before we go get her, we got to get a strategy together to get this evidence in, to get her talking, and then to keep her talking for that time period. We have to do this in a way where she doesn't suspect that she's a suspect, right? Which means that we have to make it look like we haven't done all of this research into this case and know the answers to all of these questions, because as soon as she figures it out, rookie, she'll ask for a lawyer and it's over. We don't breach that 60-minute mark. It's done. So we have to play this sack of shit for as long as we can before we ask her about the DNA. So we'll tell her we're doing a loose look into the case and somehow get her to answer these questions without spooking her into clamming up. These are the things we got to get her to answer. And every time she answers with a lie, most likely it will be a lie. It's as good as a confession when we have the evidence of it being true. First, does she know John? Their relationship. And then we'll get her into talking about Sherri, and then we'll get into the old, well, is there no problems with that? Since we know all about the hospital stuff, it'll be good to see her lie about that. We know that she's been to his place, John and Sherri's place before, because we've got definite ID. So we definitely know that this bitch knows where they lived. She'll lie about that, I'm certain. Now, we believe that she used her secondary gun at that scene and then reported it stolen 16 days later. Let's try to get her to mention that. That one could be dicey, as she might be thinking that we know all about this and just seeing if she's lying to us. So that will be a difficult one to cover, rookie. And then we, us, the rookie, we say to our boss, man, that sounds difficult, boss, that really does. And our boss goes, yeah, it does, but we'll get there. And then he says to the rookie, the thing I've been thinking about the most, though, rookie, what if she mentions the original investigation team back then and that they did go and see her, did speak to her, because there's nothing in the report, rookie. And we're like, oh man, this really could go south. And then your boss goes, but that's justice, rookie. You understand? That's justice. And we go, yeah, you're right. Mana is everything. If they fucking did something wrong, then we should burn them with her. And your boss goes, that's pretty full on, rookie. I wouldn't actually go that far, but, well, we'll just see how she goes. I'm sure that old man, Nowls, I'm sure that he'd be paying attention if we come across that question. And we go, damn, that would be out of it. Then the boss says to us, now, rookie. And we say, now what, boss? And our senior says, now you can go get a rookie. Now, before we get into it, for time constraints, because DC here is an expensive bullshitter, she drones on forever on one bullshit answer after another. So I've chopped it and sped it up parts to meet time requirements, because this does go on. Anyways, let's get back to it. Hi-ho, hi-ho. Let's get on with the show.
I'm not sure. Stephanie, I don't know if you know my partner.
Hey, great.
Hi.
Sure, nice to meet you.
See you guys.
How's it going?
Good.
Milling around. Well, have a seat. This is I didn't want to bring this up in your squadron.
You want to know?
Oh, no, it's fine. I think
I
we're
just have
good.
to record it to this turn. You're going to bring somebody in, right?
Yeah, well, I can explain the whole thing
That's
to you.
fine.
I don't want to talk about this in the squadron because
That's okay.
I don't know who people are listening.
That's true.
And if we go to my side, everybody's always wondering what everybody else is
sure,
doing.
no problem.
Okay. But like we're talking about being busy and stuff, we've been assigned a case that we've been looking at.
Okay.
It's a new case, and reviewing the case, there's some notes to see as far as your name being mentioned.
Okay.
Do you know John Rutten?
John Rutten?
Rutten.
Oh, yeah, I went to school with him.
You did?
Yeah.
How long did you know him?
Gosh, I went to school in, let's see, went to UCLA in 1978 I started, and, met him at school at the dorms.
Were you guys friends, close friends?
Yeah, we're very close friends.
Yeah.
I mean, what's this all about?
Well, it's regarding, it's a case we're working on, and it involves John, and in there, some of the statements we reviewed, there's notes and stuff that he knew you and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we were good friends, lived in the dorms I lived in the dorms for 2 years.
You guys lived in the same dorm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dykstra.
Okay. Were you guys just friends or anything else, or?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah. Was there ever any relationship or anything that developed between you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we dated, what's this all about?
Well, it's relating to his wife.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know her?
Not really. I mean, I knew that he got married years ago.
Did you ever meet her?
God, I don't know.
Do you know who she was or anything?
Well, let me think. God, it's been a long time ago. I may have met her. Geez. You know.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. You said you dated John. How long did you guys date?
I mean, well, are you guys? Is this something? I mean, you said I was going to interview somebody about art, and how you guys are.
Here's
I mean,
Stephanie. Here's the situation. It's basically we knew that this when we saw this in this chrono that maybe there was some relationship there. That's what the chrono seemed to indicate, and we didn't want to come up to you at your desk and ask those kinds of questions or do anything. You know how up there people can see what's going on if you go into an interview room or people are in there getting supplies.
Okay.
So we wanted to afford you some privacy, some confidentiality to talk about this because we thought it might be, something, you're married to someone else, obviously, and so forth, and that you may not want to, talk about these things in that setting where someone, we don't want the rumor mill or gossip or any of that kind of stuff to start.
That's fine. I mean,
so we did this just as a means to try and speak to you in just a confidential place where where your business isn't out there for other people in your division to know about.
God, that's been a million years ago. I mean, what year is it now? 2009? I mean, I graduated in 82. 82, yeah. We dated. I dated other guys. I'm sure he dated other girls.
Well, let me ask you, roughly how long would you say you guys dated?
Oh, jeez. I couldn't even say. I mean, I started school there in 78. I started UCLA in 1978. I can't remember if he was born. Let's say I was born in 59. I mean, I knew his parents.
She dribbles on and on. I told you, it's unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah, and probably after college. I can't. Geez, I'm trying to think when I met my husband. I met my husband. I'm thinking in 92, maybe. What's this all about? I mean.
Well, let me ask you, what ended the relationship between you and John?
It was kind of a weird relationship. I mean, we dated. I went out with other guys, saw other guys, and went on lots of vacations. I mean, we were friendly. I know that it's 2009 now.
Had you ever met his wife?
I may have.
Do you remember her name or anything, or? Or what she did for a living, or where she worked, or anything about her?
Well, I think I'm going to say that I think she was a nurse. I can't even remember how he said he met her. I mean, it's been so long ago.
Well, let me ask you, did you go to their wedding,
No, I didn't go to their wedding. No, did not go to their wedding. I couldn't even tell you what year he got married. I mean, it's been a million years ago.
Do you remember if you ever talked to her? Because it seems like a lot of you who were at the school at UCLA, you guys kind of were friends during and after school. So I don't know if you guys still associated afterwards once he was married or anything.
With him?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would say a girl named Smita, Diane. Yeah, I mean, I don't, again, I don't understand why you're talking about some guy I dated a million years ago.
Well, do you know what happened to his wife?
Yeah, I know she got killed.
Right now, Stephanie is shitting her panties.
What did you hear about that?
I saw a poster at work. I'm sure I spoke to him about it.
Okay, I'm going to pop into this thought experience here for a moment. I just wanted to ask a question, actually, and that is, whenever you saw this for the first time, that is, if you've seen this interview with DC here before, if indeed you have, did you think like me, and when you saw her answering the questions, that I thought
this cop chick is one of the worst fucking liars I have ever seen, ever. Like, be it on TV, movie, like it's like bad acting lying, man. You think you should be on Church Mod or something. It's bad. This chick DC is useless at lying, but nobody could be that useless, surely. Because surely she can lie, and she's old enough to know how to learn to lie, but it's because she is taken so completely off guard. And then that's when it hit me. And I thought, she's never actually ever thought in a million years she's going to be asked these questions, any of these questions, that she was ever going to hear anything about this ever again. Like, she absolutely, totally believed that. That's why she's in that show. And the reason why, and it's just my opinion, but the reason why she is so taken off guard is because she, I would say, has been told everything's been taken care of a long time ago. Right? Because that would have to be it. Because it must be something of that magnitude. Because nobody is this bad at lying. She just never ever thought of having to come up with an explanation of anything to answer anything. Because she'd been told nothing to worry about. Stephanie, now carry on and blow me. Yes, detective. Anyway, man, it is just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Anyway, let's get back to it.
I think I spoke to another friend of his about it.
And how did you first learn about that?
Jeez. Someone could have called me. I could have heard it at work. I think at one point there may have been a flyer or something. I know a good friend of his...
Were you on the job back then when that happened?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's a genius question put by the cop, because it makes her think that they haven't checked my records to see if I was. That's a beautiful part of this ruse.
Sure, I was on the job. That's why I would have heard about it with the flyer. He had a good friend, Mike Foldrick. Anyways, he may have lived in the dorms. I don't remember if that's how I met him. I may have talked to him. I mean, I don't remember how I heard. I mean, I don't even remember what year it was.
And you think you said you thought his wife was a nurse. Do you have any idea where she was working at the time, or did he ever mention that to you? Was it a hospital or a doctor's office?
I'm sure he must have mentioned it. Now that you're bringing that up, I think she worked at a hospital somewhere. And yeah, I may have met her at a hospital.
And here's another part of that taken whole off guard, because she's actually a cop, like 20 years in the force, and this chick hasn't thought, well, if you're looking into a cold case, surely there's a file on the murdered victim, and surely they would have put down what she was doing at the time. So it's unbelievable that this DC can't even think or put those two together to think that they don't know this. Like, genius with a J.
I may have talked to her once or twice.
At a hospital?
Or more.
But being that you're you used to see John, was everything okay between you guys? I mean, there was never anything uncomfortable or anything between you and her?
If DC here hasn't thought that she's now a suspect after that question, then she truly is a DC.
I don't know. I mean, it's been so many years. I mean, uncomfortable. I mean, I can't even remember if we had a conversation. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment. Geez, how many years ago was that? I don't even know what year she, got killed.
Where was his apartment?
On Roscoe.
And this is how you know she's been so completely taken off guard. It's because that look in her face is such a guilty look, right? But yet it's about the only thing she says which is true. A complete and utter DC.
Okay.
Yeah, Roscoe and east or west of DeSoto. Either east or west of DeSoto.
Do you know where he moved after? Did he move after he got married, or do you know? Or
I'm sure he did.
Did you know where he was living, or?
Course she does. She used to hang outside his house naked.
Somewhere in the valley?
Did you ever visit him and his wife?
No.
No? Never
No.
went out to, get together, dinners, anything of that nature?
No. Like I said, his sister used to come over. His sister had come to my place. I knew his brother because his brother played basketball at Northridge. Scan. So I spent a ton of time just scanning photos. I don't know that I would have called him. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. It's been a million years ago.
Well, how long was John married before his wife died?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
And after his wife died, did you talk to him again or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I did talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him, probably his parents, probably some other friends. I'm sure I talked to him.
Yeah.
It's another one of those looks.
But you're not sure where he moved to after he got married?
No idea. I mean,
Never went over to visit him or
I don't think.
meet
I mean,
his
I
wife,
don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I did. I know he lived on Roscoe for a long, long time. Such and such, but I couldn't tell you specifically where.
But you don't remember specifically ever going over to visit him or visit them and wherever he moved when he left Roscoe?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't think so, but
okay.
I don't want to say no. I don't think so, and then he says, "Oh yeah, she came over for something, dropped something off." I don't know.
So if you did go over there, just be like a quick thing, like you're saying, drop something off, or
maybe.
But you don't remember as far as like going there to have dinner or like a social, anything at the house, partying?
Well, if you guys know something, I can't. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, but
after John's wife died, and you said you may have been talking to him. Did your relationship start up again?
I would say no. Again, can you give me a year? I mean, this is like 2009.
She died in 1986?
Yeah, I think it was 86.
1986.
Okay. Like I said, I'm faintly remembering that because I got recertified again. And, it wasn't working out, and we'd be better friends, and he introduced.
I told you, this chick is one expansive bullshitter. I told you.
A gal that Mike was dating, and then Mike came on the department.
I see.
So,
But getting back to some stuff, as far as you recall, after John's wife died, did you start a relationship again with John, or dating casually, or anything like that?
like I said, he met Greg and I in home. What island did we go to? And I would go places, and I would either run into people or, meet people. Worked out, but we did things together. I would consider him. I've probably known him. I may have said to somebody, "Hey, have him call me if he wants to talk," and then he may have done that.
Do you know what the circumstances were regarding her death?
Out of all of the people, the 8 billion plus are on this world right now, this chick, this DC, Stephanie Lazarus, is the only fucking person out of all of everyone who knows the answer to that question, because the other one isn't here. And we know that because of 3 little letters, DNA.
let me think back. I don't know if it was, if it was a burglary or something. It's been so many years. I can faintly think that I may have saw a flyer.
Yeah.
May have had her picture on it. That's why I say, if somebody had called me, I may not have known what her last name was. I may have. Maybe if you told me, I would remember it.
Do you remember her first name?
Now, we're really going to see the bullshit flow from this DC's mouth.
Shelly, Sherri, I don't know, something maybe, like I said, it's been so many years, and
from all the years, as far as you can remember, do you remember ever talking to her?
Well, I said earlier, I may have, I may have talked to her.
You mentioned a hospital, maybe. You may have talked to her at a hospital.
Yeah, I may have. I'm thinking back now. You guys are bringing up all these whole memories.
No, it kind of dusts off the cuff.
Geez. I'm thinking that because we would date. He would date other people. I would date other people, and I think
This DC here offers up all of this information.
He may have been dating her, or I don't know. Maybe he was married. I don't even remember. And I'm like,
without a question.
Why are you calling me if you're either dating her or living with her or married to her? Because I honestly don't remember the time frame. And I'm like, come on, knock it off. And now I'm thinking I may have gone to her and say, hey, you know what? Is he dating you? He's bothering me. And so I'm thinking that we had a conversation about that. One or two, maybe. It could have been three. I don't want to say I had 3 conversations with her.
Like at her work or at their house or.
No, I'm thinking that he obviously must have told me where she worked. I'm thinking it was a hospital somewhere in LA, and I could have been. Again, what year was that? Where was I working?
This DC really is a fucking genius, man.
I'm trying to think of where. When did you say they got married?
As if she wouldn't know. She was standing outside the church naked.
I don't know. I think it was like in 85 or 86 or something like that.
Where was I working?
We just kind of picked this up. We don't know a lot about it.
Oh my God. Like, I can tell that he's lying about it. I can tell he's bullshitting.
I could have been working in Hollywood, it sounds like, if that's where I was working. So I could have said, okay, well, and I went and talked to her. And just said, hey, you know what? If he's dating you, he keeps calling me. Why don't you tell him to knock it off or whatever? And because I probably would have told him to knock it off.
You would have told John.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would have said, hey, and again.
But you wanted to tell her too. You wanted them both to know.
Yeah, if you're getting called, and I'm faintly remembering when Scott moved in with me in 1993, sometime in '93, because I met Scott in. I haven't had my breakfast yet. And so once, could have been twice, could have been 3 times. Yeah, I don't know, I think I stopped teaching here sometime in 92.
And when you say that you may have, that you talked to his wife, said, hey, or I don't know if it was. I guess it wasn't his wife at that time, girlfriend or whatever. And
yeah, I don't know if it was his wife or his girl. Quite honestly, I don't even remember.
When you said like, hey, he's calling me, he needs to knock it off or what have you. Was that civil? Was there?
Out of all of the lies that this thing says, this DC's lie here, this has to be the best lie that she has to tell in her whole life. And look how well she doesn't do it.
Yeah, no, there was not. I don't think there was anything. The conversation lasted a few minutes. I can't even remember. And what is it like? We went out to lunch or anything.
Right, but there was no like arguments or fights or it didn't get heated or anything like that.
Not that I recall. No, I would think that would stand out. I would think. Now again, that's not standing out in my mind. you know.
So you didn't have any problems with her then?
No.
You didn't have any issues with her?
No, I mean.
But let me ask you. It seems like you didn't have any issue. Now, did she have an issue with you as far as because now you're telling her, hey, you know, Helma, stop calling. Now, you know, she's like, hey, you know, you figure she'd be threatened by you.
You know, I don't know. I mean,
from what you remember, as far as when you talked to her, maybe you didn't take it as serious, but maybe, you know, did she? Maybe she was bugged.
I mean, like, was she throwing things at me or something, or?
Well, no, just
you know,
as far as you're trying to explain, like, hey, have him stop calling me. You know, stop playing games.
You know, I tell you. If the conversation, I couldn't even tell you how long the conversation. If you said, did it last a half an hour? Did it last 3 minutes? Did it last 20 minutes? I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. You know.
You just remember talking to her, telling her.
Yeah, and that's why you said, how many times you talked to her? I don't know how many times I talked to her. Maybe it was once, maybe it was twice, maybe it was 3 times. You know, I honestly don't know.
Right.
I don't know what year it was. If he said, I met her in such and such year, I go, okay, well, I don't even know what year he met her. I graduated from UCLA in 1982.
Here we go again. DC's BS.
Friends' weddings from where he worked. He may have gone to things. Take pictures at a basketball game. They came down in the earthquake.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And you're saying when you went to see her, would you remember if it was at her house or at the place she worked at?
No, I'm thinking that it was probably. For some reason, I want to say that the hospital seemed that, you know, if you say he got married in 85 or something. I mean, no, I'm not saying that, you know, you haven't done stuff on duty, but I wouldn't think. I mean, I try to avoid doing stuff on duty.
Oh. So you would have gone, if it was en route to work, you more than likely you would have gone to her work and had this discussion with her?
I mean, that's sounding familiar. I mean, that's, now that you guys are bringing this stuff up, I mean, that sounds familiar. But again, I mean...
Just over halfway there. Now he's got to keep this,
you know,
bullshit of talking.
What's this got to do with me dating him and, you know, her getting killed? I mean, I don't, you know, I don't have anything to do with it. And you got something that's, somebody said, you know, whatever. I mean...
And we, being the rookie, see that old DC here looks like she's going to crack and ask for a lawyer or walk out. So we got to pull it back again. So we say this.
Well, like we said, we just literally got this the other day, and you're going through it.
Yeah.
And you see
and you saw me say,
your name.
It's next door.
Right. And so, you know, I mean, obviously it's like we recognize the name. And we know that, you know, you work next door to us. And so we're trying to get some background. We're trying to figure this out. I mean, this is from a long time ago.
Oh, I know. And
you know, and things have been kind of slow for us. And so, you know, Chief Beck has said, hey, you know, I want you guys working. I don't want you just sitting around reading the paper.
Yeah.
So he's kind of pushing some older cases out even to the guys that work active cases because, you know, and so we see this and we're just like, well, you know, we want to talk to you about it. But of course, the only reason we did it here is because we're getting into some pretty personal stuff in your relationship.
You know, my husband's on the job and we've been
so
married.
We don't want to take the risk. We don't want to take the risk when one of those interview rooms, and even when the door closed, someone's going to get supplies and sees us on a monitor or hears or whatever.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate it. Like I said,
that's where people go when there's orals. You know, when they're doing orals, guys will go in there and try and watch. Like, what are the answers to the questions? You know,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we just want to afford you the most privacy and confidentiality we could.
And our boss looks at us and gives us that look of good save, rookie, good save.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, I mean, this goes way back, and I mean, it was very sad. You know, obviously.
Did he tell you what happened? Like what he heard from the detectives or the police, or?
You know what? He may have. For some reason, I'm thinking that. I mean, again, this is like
shitting her panties.
Drugs or something. I mean, I think I faintly remember him mentioning something maybe about cocaine.
What the fuck is she talking about? It's unbelievable.
I mean, like I said, I'm faintly remember either between him or the flyer that there was some kind of a burglary. You know.
This next question is the question that when Nels watches this, and he would have seen it, that this is the question that Nels really wants this DC to answer.
Let me ask you, did the detectives ever reach out to you?
No, no one's ever talked to me. I don't think anybody ever talked to me about him.
It seems like back then
you know,
would have been...
well, I take...
Ooh, here we go.
I'm thinking that I did talk to a detective. God. Well, what division was it?
In Van Nuys?
And where was I working?
Don't you mean, who was I blowing?
6?
I would have been working in Devonshire. You know, I'm thinking that I did speak to somebody.
Oh, really?
I couldn't tell you who it was.
Because it doesn't
He was
say
probably
anything.
on the phone.
Okay.
Would have been somebody in regards to this, or just...
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I don't even know if you said a name, if I would remember it. Because I worked Van Nuys for a while.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I worked...
Detectives, patrol?
No, I worked detectives.
Uh-huh.
When did I go to Van Nuys? I worked Devonshire till 88. Then I went to Dare till 92. I worked twice. 93. I think I talked to somebody.
Would you remember any of the conversation as far as what they were looking for? Or...
It is so fundamentally crucial, especially for bringing a suing case against the division or department or the city, whoever, and all she has to do is mention a name. One name of most likely the senior detective or even the rookie back then. All she has to do is mention a name. God, the stress must have been killing Nels when he saw this.
Couldn't say. I mean, they may have told me. I said, hey, you know, I went to school with him. Either somebody called me or I saw the I may have seen the flyer at that point, and I called up. If someone's name was on the flyer, I may have called to speak to them. I said, hey, if there's anything I can do, you know, call me. This is where I work. You know, I went to, school with them. Couldn't say. I couldn't tell you who it was.
But you do remember that someone you think reached out to you?
You mean a detective?
Yeah, called you up and talked to you.
Or I called them, one of the two. But yeah, I remember talking to somebody, but I'm thinking it was a man. I'm sure there's probably more men back then.
Yeah, probably
right.
more.
So again, that's really all I can remember about that.
What?
Nels would have been fucking spewing that you didn't say a name, and I bet whoever it was also freaking the fuck out too. Oh man, stress all round, boys.
After he hooked up with Sherri, do you know where they were living?
No, you asked me that already.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, obviously they were living in Van Nuys division.
Yeah.
I may have known.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did he ever give me the address? I maybe. I don't remember. I mean, I don't know.
Because the only reason I'm asking you again is because as we've been talking, I know some stuff has come to you because you're like, oh, it seems like So that's why I'm asking if you've ever been to the house.
And when you said Van Nuys division, I'm just...
Because I know you went to talk to her at the hospital regarding this issue with John, to kind of like, hey, what's going to happen here with this thing. But would this ever have followed up to her house when you went to talk to her to say, hey, you know what?
I don't even know that I knew where they lived. That's what I'm saying. I don't. If I knew where they lived and I'd been there, if it was for something social, I would. And I can't see how many times I saw her face to face. He lived on Roscoe. Did I ever see her there? I don't know. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment on Roscoe.
Mm-hmm.
I may have met her there. I mean...
Because the only reason I'm asking you again is because as we've been talking, I know some stuff has come to you because you're like, oh, it seems like you're shaking.
You know,
So that's why I'm asking if you've ever been to the house.
and when you said Van Nuys division, you know, I'm just...
Because I know you went to talk to her at the hospital regarding this issue with John, to, you know, kind of like, hey, you know, what's going to happen here with this thing. But would this ever have followed up to her house when you went to talk to her to say, hey, you know what?
I don't even know that I knew where they lived. You know, that's what I'm saying. I don't... If I knew where they lived and I'd been there, if it was for something social, I would... and I can't see how many times I saw her face to face. You know, he lived on Roscoe. Did I ever see her there? I don't know. I mean, I may have seen her at his apartment on Roscoe.
Mm-hmm.
I may have met her there. You know, I mean...
But you didn't have any issues with her, right?
No, I mean, you know, obviously, if he was dating me and dating her, I probably said, hey, pick or something, you know.
Fair.
You know, back
That's
then.
fair.
I can't say that we ever screamed or, you know, it's... I mean, he was a pretty mellow guy, you know.
I mean, would you remember if she snapped on you and just like, hey, man, it's my man, you know, you get it, leave him alone, you know, blah, 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 that kind of stuff?
You know...
I mean, would you remember an incident like that? I mean, because that would be like, what?
Well, you know, and maybe that happened. I mean, gosh, you know, it's been so long ago. I mean, that's not ringing a bell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, one of the concerns I had is looking at some of the notes is some of Sherri's friends said that you and her were having a problem because of the John situation.
Well, number one, I don't know who her friends are, because again, I don't recall if he. And I don't even want to say I spoke to her 5 times because that's probably place now where they, you know, it may have been back then, but you know, I don't even know that I met.
That's what I'm reading is that you guys had problems with each other and words were being exchanged, and it's all relating to John.
You know what? I can't say.
You can't say?
No, that doesn't even ring a bell. I mean,
it seemed like, yeah, you would recall something if somebody's going off on you, right?
I would think. I would think.
Yeah, because it's...
But that's, you know...
Because it seems like your relationship with John was kind of... I mean, you've known each other for a lot of years.
Yeah, it was just kind of... It was like...
But it doesn't seem to me, from what you're telling me...
I mean, we were never engaged. I mean, it wasn't like we were planning to get married. You know, it was like... It was... I don't know how to describe it. I mean...
Would you say there wasn't a lot of drama in this relationship?
Oh, no, I don't think there was drama.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean...
That's why I'm asking, as far as what the friends are saying in regards to this, you know, the problems that they're saying you were having with Sherri. I mean, it seems like the relationship is just going on an even plane.
That just... I don't have a recollection of that at all.
No?
No.
And because from what you're telling me is when you guys met at the hospital, I mean, you guys talked, but it wasn't, from what you recall, confrontational.
I don't think so. From
either side?
I mean, I'm trying to, you know, turn my memory back, you know, and I'm trying. I can't even picture the, you know, the conversation. I mean, I can't even picture the conversation.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, at the hospital, it never got to the point where people were going, hey, you know, everybody go to your own corner type of thing.
I don't think so.
Nothing like that.
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't. I mean, if you say people said that, that's not ringing a bell to me at all. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's not ringing a bell to me at all.
Was there ever a time when you and Sherri were talking and John had to maybe go like, hey, you guys relax, you know, or anything like that?
I think so.
How about, you know, ever going to her house and having a dispute like that?
You know, I'm just... If I met her ever at his apartment... maybe. I mean, maybe we could have met. I could have met her. I don't think I ever met her. I can't. I don't think so.
Because I mean, I know the way my wife is. at our house, she wouldn't want my own girlfriends there, you know. So I don't know if maybe she had the same mentality towards you, as far as you ever being there, or being welcome there, you know, because it's.
You know what? If somebody said I was there when they were there, then that's possible. Mm-hmm. But I don't recall. I mean, I don't think so. It's not sounding familiar.
Yeah, because I guess basically what I'm asking is, you know, were you ever welcome to the house? Like, you know, hey.
Oh, come over?
Yeah, come on over. We're having a barbecue, you know, a dinner party, Christmas party, or whatever.
You know, I don't know.
You don't?
I'm just trying to think.
Here's how the boss introduces the questioning about the stolen firearm that she lost 16 days after the murder. And this is how he sneaks it in.
Let me ask, when you were seeing John, would you, I take it he would pick you up in his car, you'd go in her, you know, your car, things of that nature, when you guys would go out?
Yeah, I mean...
Do you remember what he drove?
Well, I know at one time he drove either a 240 or 260Z.
Any other cars that stand out in your mind?
Look at that face. DC is a fucking genius.
What kind of car did you have back then?
Let's see. What year? I've only had like a few cars in my whole life.
So what'd you have when you came on the job?
Some kind of a Toyota.
It's crazy, eh? DC here really doesn't want to mention that her car got broken into. She's trying to figure out a way not to, but at the same time, she has to. It's genius.
Hatchback, but I forget what the name of it was.
Like a Corolla or Tercel or something like that.
Tercel.
Did you ever have any problems with your cars?
Surely you'd be asking, why the fuck is this cop asking this question in the first place? Genius, baby.
What?
Just anything in general, you know, car wrecks, anything stolen.
Yeah. No, my car's never been stolen. Oh, no, crashed, hit and run. Yeah, I don't think any of my cars have ever been stolen. No. My cars haven't been stolen. Broken into.
None of that, huh?
Oh yeah, my cars have been broken into. You know, but no cars have ever been stolen.
This DC is dumb, eh? Really dumb.
How long? Well, tell me about this car getting broken into.
Well, my car has been broken into several times.
Oh, really? Did you ever lose anything, or?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, let's see. I had a gun that was stolen. I had other stuff that was stolen.
Not your duty gun, was it?
No.
Oh, that's good. Was it ever recovered?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. Not that I know of.
Never been notified? No.
The car's been broken into, yeah, several times.
Where did that happen when your gun was taken?
Trying to remember. I'm sure you guys must know. Because my car was broken into in Ventura.
Well, like I said, as we were looking at the case, and you know, we had read the notes as far as from Sherri's friend saying you guys had problems or words, and they got heated. You know, and the reason we're asking you is they had mentioned that an incident at her work had occurred, and they've also told us that an incident at her house occurred.
You know what?
And this is at her house during the period of time that they're married.
That's just not sounding familiar at all. I mean, you know what? That's just not sound. I don't recall. I mean, it just doesn't sound, you know, familiar.
And this is an incident where you showed up. You weren't supposed to show up, and things got heated.
At his house?
Yeah.
That just doesn't sound familiar. I mean, no. You know, it's not sounding familiar.
So
not at all.
now you're saying not familiar because it's just
Well,
you remember, or it's
Well,
just
you know what? I'd have to say I don't remember, because I don't remember. That doesn't sound familiar.
I mean, would you remember something like that in your life? If
Well, I would think, but
sort of drama involving the other woman type of thing.
Did you ever fight with her?
You mean like we fought?
Yeah. Did you ever duke it out with her?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
You'd remember that, right? That would be pretty
yeah, I would think so. I
pretty
mean,
specific.
yeah, like I said, I mean,
traumatic.
obviously, it just doesn't sound familiar. I mean, what are they saying? So I fought with her. So now I'm getting the jump, the leap. Excuse me, I haven't eaten. They're saying, okay, I fought with her, so I must have killed her. I mean, come on. I mean, that's, I don't even know who these people are. I can't even say I met any of these people. I mean, it's insane. If it happened, I honestly don't remember it.
Would it be something you would remember? I mean, because I don't know if any other intense incidents in your life that have occurred, I mean, you'd recall those, right? I mean,
well,
like a use of force at work or a car crash, something you're involved in, you'd be like, yeah, I remember.
You would think I would remember. I mean, I would think if it was something that crazy. I mean, I can't say. You say, how many fights have you gotten into, in your life? I mean, a few at work.
Well, fights at work are kind of different because we've all had uses of force or whatever. But
I haven't even had even a lot of those. I mean,
right, but if you're actually,
I mean, I played.
Like if Dan and I got mad at each other and we threw blows in the squad room, I mean, 20 years later, I would remember it. I mean,
I would think I would remember it, but that's what I'm saying. That's not sounding familiar to me at all. I would think I would remember.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're in this,
I would think so too.
If you're in this other girl's house and words are exchanged, I mean, you figure you recall.
I would think.
Especially if it got physical, right?
Well, I would think.
And it's relating to, a guy that you were dating and that she's dating now, and it's just kind of like a whole love triangle type of thing. I mean, you figure you remember that, right?
Well, I would think.
And I'm looking at the notes, and these people are kind of, they're pointing the finger at you.
Well,
and
I mean, that's not ringing a bell to me, so.
On this case,
at what stage do you think that this DC would think, hey, maybe they're looking at me as a suspect? That's
it occurred in
just
1986.
genius.
Detectives processed the scene, things of that nature. They did fingerprints and all that stuff. The standard stuff. You've been doing this longer than I have.
Well, not about that. I got 26 years on. Going on 26.
19, so. But, as they processed everything, they did the best they could at that time, and they looked at a lot of people and different things in this case. And you're right.
I mean, if you guys are claiming that I'm a suspect, then, I got a problem with that. Okay. So, if you're doing this as an interrogation, you're saying, hey, I'm a suspect. Well, now I got a problem with, now you're accusing me of this? Is that what you're saying?
We're trying to figure out what happened, Stephanie.
Well, I'm just saying, do I need to get a lawyer if you're accusing me of this?
You don't have to. You're here of your own free will.
I know, but
you're not under arrest. You can walk out.
You can leave whenever you like.
Well, I'm trying to give you some background of how I knew him, and now you're telling me that somebody's saying that we had this big old fight, and I don't even know what you're talking about. And I don't want to get in trouble for something that I didn't even do, or you're saying I did something.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand.
I mean, how would you guys like it if the tables were turned on you?
I understand. No.
No, that's what we're telling you. You're free to go whenever you want. If this makes you uncomfortable and you want to,
now you're starting to make me uncomfortable.
The thing is, detectives did what they could at that time on the crime scene. Okay, and the burglary thing you're talking about, that is an angle that they looked at. But now we're looking at everything else on the case because nobody was ever arrested on the case.
I don't know that or not.
Okay. Now, what we'd like to do is.
Hello, campers. Well, it seems that we're at 106.10, so now it's time to drop the DNA question and wrap this interview up.
Obviously, you know about all the DNA stuff and things of the nature that, gets done on cases nowadays. you know, if we asked you for a DNA swab, would you be willing to give us one?
Maybe. Because now
Yes, because
now I'm thinking I probably need to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
because I know how this stuff works. Okay, don't get me wrong. You're right. I have been doing this a long time,
Yeah.
and I wish I had been recording this because now it sounds like there's. You're telling these people saying I'm fighting with her, and now it sounds like you're trying to. I've been doing this a long time.
yeah, we know.
Okay, and now it almost sounds like you're trying to pin something on me.
No,
now
but-
I got that sense.
Well, what it gets to on these cases, and you know it as well as I do, our job is to identify and eliminate
I
suspects.
can't believe this.
So if we ask you to the point to give us a DNA sample, a buccal swab, so we can identify or eliminate you, would you be willing to do that?
Maybe.
Well,
Because I know this.
well, that's where we're at too. I mean, because right now, from looking at the evidence, it's possible we may have some DNA at the location,
That's great.
and we're going to do what we can to try to put this thing together. And your name's in the book. These people are pointing at you for whatever reason.
I don't know why. That's just crazy. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
And it would be irresponsible on our part not to look at it.
I know. You guys have to do your job, and I guess I'm gonna have to contact somebody. So.
That's fair.
I mean, because I know how this stuff works. I
Sure.
mean, I just can't believe it.
We understand that. I mean, if we were in your position, I mean, we would feel the same way.
I just can't even believe it. I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked that somebody would be saying that I did this. I mean, we had a fight, and so I went and killed her. I mean, come on.
Yes, DC, that is exactly what you did. You took her away from her matua, away from her little whānau. You did, Stephanie. You did.
Well,
That's.
okay.
All right.
Well, thanks for giving me the courtesy. I wish I could record it.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Stephanie, take care.
All right.
These last questions coming up, well, they're the best questions.
This is absolutely crazy.
Have a seat, Stephanie.
This is insane.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Stephanie, you know you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand?
Yes,
Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand?
yes,
You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. Do you understand?
yes.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you want to talk to us right now?
No.
All right.
Okay.
This
then.
is crazy. This is I'm like in shock. I'm totally in shock.
Yes, exactly. So DC is arrested, and we have a videoed interrogation, which meets the parameters. And now we go to court, and she's there with those really bloody good lawyers, apparently, because remember, she's in prison. But that ...
Kia ora, everyone. Hey, listen. Please pay attention. With episode 3 here, out of this now 4-parter, and it's like, oh, what, 4 parts? There's an episode 4, and it's like, yes, that's a first again, but I do not want to waste it. Waste what? Nels and the mind experience that we're all going to take if we were in Nell's role in all this, the matua. So I don't want to spend just 5 minutes on it, especially when there's been 3 full episodes. 3 full episodes to get us here. So all of you.
And we'll see all you guys at church. To see more crazy, insane shit that happens in the DC, just click one of these videos. Ka kite.